top leaders of the world have descended on a luxury mountain lodge nestled in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies for the G7 summit. Now, the meeting takes place amid growing tensions in West Asia and Ukraine, as well as global economic turmoil.
Let's start at the G7 summit in Canada, where U.S. President Trump has cut his trip short. The White House says his early departure is due to the situation in the Middle East.
What once felt like a warm handshake between neighbors has now hardened into a clenched fist across a tense border. For decades, the alliance between the United States and Canada stood as one of the strongest partnerships in modern geopolitics. Two nations bonded by shared values, shared history, and the longest undefended border in the world. But now, that relationship is splintering, cracking in plain sight, and the world is watching. President Donald Trump is en route to Canada for the G7 summit, but this time, he won't be greeted by handshakes and polite applause. Instead, the streets of Ottawa are echoing with defiance. Protesters are already filling the city, many holding signs that read, "No more tyrants." Beneath the looming shadows of Parliament Hill, this isn't your usual political disagreement. This is something deeper, more personal. This is a fracture in the very foundation of international diplomacy, and it's not just Ottawa. Across North America, protests have erupted. In cities large and small, people are gathering, not just to oppose a policy or a politician, but to confront a shift in values. Citizens, students, teachers, mothers, even business leaders are uniting shoulder to shoulder in silent resistance. They are not protesting America itself. They're protesting what it is becoming under Donald Trump. And make no mistake, Trump is not arriving in Canada as a welcomed guest. He's arriving as a warning. Prime Minister Mark Carney, long regarded as a moderate voice of reason in Canadian politics, has suddenly found himself at the center of a historic standoff. In recent days, he's become the unexpected voice for millions who feel that something sacred has been broken. He's not just leading policy discussions. He's defending a principle that no ally, no matter how powerful, should be allowed to use economic coercion as a tool of intimidation. Trump has placed harsh tariffs on everyday Canadian goods, steel, aluminum, cars, even household appliances. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are the very materials that build Canadian homes, stock Canadian stores, and support Canadian jobs. And when Canada asked why, the White House didn't offer an explanation. It issued an ultimatum: strike a deal in 2 weeks, or the US would impose its own terms unilaterally. What was supposed to be a summit among equals has now turned into a showdown. The G7 is no longer a round table of trusted partners. It's become a battlefield of egos and economic brinkmanship. Trump isn't walking in as a statesman. He's marching in like a general, ready for war. Only this time, the battleground is diplomacy, and the weapons are tariffs. Gone are the choreographed photo ops, the carefully worded communiques, the polite diplomacy. What remains is tension, visible on every face. Cameras may still flash. Hands might still be shaken. But the warmth behind those gestures has vanished. Trump's trademark bravado may still be on full display, but in Canada, it rings hollow. Outside the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, protests grow louder. What began as a reaction to economic policy has transformed into something more visceral, a warning. From city centers to university campuses, the message is spreading. We will not normalize tyranny. One sign reads, "We remember the 1930s." Another says simply, "No tyrants here." These aren't the exaggerations of overzealous pundits. These are the words of ordinary people who recognize echoes of the past and fear what might come next. One woman, a dual citizen, choked back tears as she compared the current political climate in the US to Germany's descent in the 1930s. She wasn't speaking as a strategist or economist. She was speaking from experience, from fear, from memory. This is not about foreign policy anymore. It's about trust. It's about the soul of a partnership that has stood the test of time, until now. Canada is not resisting out of pride, but out of principle. Across provinces, peaceful rallies are spreading, not with fire or violence, but with clarity, with resolve. People are choosing to stand still, to raise signs, to speak softly but firmly. They're not resisting America. They're resisting authoritarianism. They're resisting economic threats wrapped in nationalistic rhetoric. And they're doing it with a quiet strength that no tweet can drown out. Trump often calls himself a master negotiator. But the question now is, what happens when the other side refuses to play? When your oldest friend says, "Enough?" Prime Minister Carney has made it clear, Canada will not be bullied. His stance isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it's calm, firm, and backed by an entire country that has decided to draw a line in the sand. This week's G7 summit was supposed to reaffirm global unity. Instead, it has become a symbol of fracture. The steel tariffs were just the beginning. Trump hinted at auto tariffs next. Every move, every threat has pushed Canada further from negotiation and closer to resistance. And while Washington may believe this is a flex of strength, it's also exposing a deeper truth. This isn't about protecting American jobs. It's about projecting dominance. When the leader of the free world chooses to punish rather than partner, threaten rather than talk, impose rather than invite, he ceases to be a diplomat. He becomes a disruptor. Canadian factories are already cutting jobs. Prices in stores are rising. Supply chains are breaking down, and every family impacted knows this isn't the invisible hand of the market. It's the heavy hand of politics. Trump's approach to trade has weaponized the economy, and his actions have turned allies into adversaries. But now, for the first time, one of those allies is standing up. Not behind closed doors, but on the world stage. The signs may be made of cardboard, but their message carries the weight of history. Tyrants are not welcome here. This moment, this summit, won't be remembered for diplomatic niceties or closing statements. It will be remembered as the moment the U.S. Canada alliance reached its breaking point. Not because of policy, but because of pride. Because America under Trump doesn't negotiate. It dictates. It isolates. It punishes. And for the first time in generations, Canada is saying, no more. And that message is being written, not just by leaders in suits, but by people in the streets. Mothers, veterans, teenagers, factory workers, teachers, people who still believe that diplomacy matters, that character matters. That leadership is about more than leverage. Trump may arrive with his entourage and his talking points, but outside, on the cold pavement of Canada's capital, history is being written. Not by press secretaries, not by spin doctors, but by the people. And their message is simple. We see what's happening, and we will not be silent. What are your thoughts on this unfolding crisis? Do you think the U.S.-Canada relationship can survive this moment? Drop your comments below. Let your voice be heard. And if you found this video thought-provoking, please like, share, and subscribe to Torchpoint. Thanks for watching. Stay informed. Stay strong.